Good afternoon and welcome. This podcast is one of Athlone Castle's events celebrating this year's National Heritage Week. Good morrow, good cousins. My name is Susannah of York. I am a cook and a lover of food. With my able assistant, Avine, age 4.5, we are going on a journey to the countryside around Lewin's Ford in 1210 AD. Before we set out, I asked her the following question. What did the Irish eat before potatoes? She thought for a moment and proudly announced, Cheerios. Believe it or not, she was not far wrong. Cheerios are made with oats. The staple of the Irish medieval diet was oats, in the form of a pottage, which was eaten at all meals. And woe betide the woman of the house who burns the pottage, as it is a grave sin. At a small dun in the countryside near the small monastic site of Kilkenny West, we are visiting a family. For breaking our fast, we have porridge with milk and honey. Our host boasted that his herd of milk cows was one of the finest in the area. Then he told us the story of the dun cow of St. Kieran, of Clonmacnoise. The cow followed Kieran everywhere around the country, and finally coming to rest at Clonmacnoise. It always gave enough milk to feed all the monks and students there. After it died, its hide was considered holy, and anyone who died on it went straight to heaven. Milk, butter, cheese are all important to the family, and he boasted that it was the Irish monks that gave cheese making to the Normans. We were then given woven baskets to go foraging for the bounty of the countryside. We are looking for wild garlic, sorrel, nettles. Our host then tells us another story, this of St. Columkill, who vowed to live on only nettle soup. His recipe suggests that the nettles should be picked when young, 4 to 5 inches tall. Boil, drain, chop, and return to the pot. Add water and milk, then oatmeal to thicken. Hazelnuts, elder, crabapples, sloes, rowan berries also make tasty dishes. On the way, we pass the woven bee skips. The local monastic site also keeps bees for the wax for the candles in the church or chapel, along with the honey as a sweetener, and to make mead, a drink for chieftains on special occasions. Our midday repast was soft cheese with oat flat cake and nibbling on crabapples. Back again to the dun, and our last meal was a juicy joint of mutton boiled with greens and salt, with a drink of dry red wine made from elderberries. My assistant drinks the same, but it is 3 parts water to 1 part wine. Oatcakes smothered in honey and curds finish the meal. After our pottage in the morning, this time with roasted hazelnuts and skim milk, we set out for Lewin's Ford. We crossed the Shannon by the new bridge that has been built by the Normans. Tired of walking, I repair to the 3 Blackmore's Heads at the base of the castle, but my able assistant, bored now, runs off to play in the castle. I order bread and try to decide between a fish or rabbit stew. Rabbits are new to the countryside and are kept by the innkeeper in a hutch out the back. Doves are also eaten, but only by the lords and those who can afford a dovecote. My bread is a mixture of barley and brown wheat germ, with brewer's yeast, which gives it a lovely malty taste. The bread would be baked either at the nearby mill on the river or at the Clunic monastery. I do not know if there is a communal oven in the town. All houses only have an open fire, and so would only make flat bread. The women of the town would bring their risen loaves to the communal oven or buy it from a baker. It is false to say that people of this time didn't drink water, because they did, but only when there was no beer. Beer was drunk at all meals. In the morning, small ale or beer would be drunk to start the day, then a stronger brew for afternoon and evening. Ale was often brewed by the women in their homes. Often herbs from the garden would be added, such as lavender, thyme, or rosemary. A woman who could brew a fine ale was a good catch. Only the most well-off could afford wine, as it was imported from France. Mead was drunk at special occasions, but again only by the well-off. Most of the townspeople would have had small gardens for vegetables, carrots, turnips, radish, cabbage, leeks, and kept maybe a pig or two, or a goat, and chickens. You can just imagine the smell around the town. The workmen in the castle come in at times and are ever complaining. It seems that they are sick of salmon or salted herring at most meals. Although the Clunic monks have the fishing rights on the river, fish is plentiful and eels a specialty. Then the quartermaster of the castle arrives in and complains that the food delivery for the soldiers in the castle is late. He has ordered corn, vegetables, fish, bread, salt, beer, and wine. Well, look who has just run in, full of news. My assistant. Lord John Grey is coming on an inspection tour, and that means a banquet. 14 oxen lying in salt, 2 whole fresh oxen, 140 pigs, 50 capons of geese, 8 dozen other capons, including swans, 100 dozen pigeons, 8 dozen rabbits, 120 gallons of milk, 12 bushels of apples, and 11,000 eggs. The quartermaster will be pulling his hair out at the expense. A menu might include swans roasted, great flesh, roasted haunches of meat, a pottage of meat broth, salted oxen boiled with whole wheat, white bread called manchet bread, pies filled with chicken or rabbit or geese or all of the three, or filled with curds and sweet egg yolks with wonderful spices, pepper, nutmeg, ginger, sugar, soups, and an array of capons. There will be at least 3 removes at the feast, with 11 dishes in each. The diners have a spoon and a knife for eating, but most foods will be eaten with the fingers. The manchet bread serves as a plate and soaks up the broth and gravy. Then at the end of the feast, it is given out to the poor who wait at the kitchen gates. We must hurry home now, and I await the call to come to cook the feast. Our pottage of buttered worts has been keeping warm beside the smored fire, ready for reheating. God rest you, and God give you good food. This ends our journey, and we return to the present. We hope you enjoyed this story, and thanks to the Heritage Council and the Irish Walled Town Network for funding this podcast. There are 2 recipes included with this podcast for those who would like to try to cook the food mentioned in the story. We look forward to meeting all at the Medieval Fair 2020. 21.